Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about political developments of the week. Europe is reacting to Ukraine's desperate moves, just as Donald Trump confirms he will meet Vladimir Putin on U.S. soil, and even hints at a stance that could favor Russia. This development has sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles, raising questions about the future of the war in Ukraine, the unity of NATO, and the balance of global power. From the outside, the situation looks like a high-stakes political drama unfolding in real time. Ukraine, still battling intense Russian offensives, is under mounting pressure both militarily and economically. Western aid is slowing down, and there are increasing calls within Europe for a negotiated settlement to the conflict. At the same time, Trump's announcement of a meeting with Putin on American soil is a bold move that changes the tone of the conversation, creating both hope among some factions for peace and fear among others that this could weaken Ukraine's position. On the inside, behind closed doors, the discussions are intense and strategic. Ukraine's diplomats are working tirelessly, making urgent appeals to European governments to hold the line and maintain strong sanctions against Russia. They know that any wavering now could undermine months of resistance and sacrifice. In the European capitals, political leaders are holding late-night strategy sessions, weighing the risks of pushing harder against Moscow versus opening the door to a negotiated solution. In Washington, Trump's advisors are crafting their narrative, carefully keeping specific details under wraps to maintain suspense and leverage. This interior political environment is one where information is currency, and every leaked comment or rumor has the potential to sway international opinion. When it comes to performance on the world stage, Ukraine has shown remarkable determination. Despite dwindling resources, it continues to resist and launch counteroffensives. However, from a purely diplomatic standpoint, Europe's performance has been uneven. Some nations remain committed to full support for Ukraine, while others are growing restless under the strain of prolonged economic disruptions. Trump's performance in this scenario has been calculated and headline-grabbing, shifting global attention toward himself and away from Ukraine's diplomatic campaigns. For Russia, simply being granted the opportunity to meet the U.S. president, especially on American soil, is a win in terms of optics, signaling that they are still a key player at the table despite ongoing sanctions and international condemnation. The security risks tied to this development are significant. Hosting Putin in the United States at a time when the war in Ukraine is still raging sends a complicated signal to allies and adversaries alike. NATO unity could be tested, and Eastern European nations may feel increasingly vulnerable. A softer U.S. stance could embolden Russia to push harder militarily, calculating that Western resolve is beginning to crack. There is also the danger that Ukraine could be pressured into making concessions that would be difficult to reverse later, locking in territorial losses. What makes this moment unique is the combination of timing, symbolism, and political personality. It is rare to see such a public and dramatic shift in tone from a U.S. leader toward Russia in the midst of an active conflict involving a close ally. Ukraine's desperate outreach, Europe's struggle to present a united front, and Trump's open hints at favoring Russia create a rare intersection of urgency and unpredictability. This is not a routine diplomatic meeting. It is a symbolic move that could influence how history remembers this phase of the war. The cost of this scenario is not measured in currency alone. For Ukraine, the potential price is the loss of territory, sovereignty, and the morale of its people. For Europe, the cost could be a fractured alliance and diminished influence on the world stage. For the United States, it risks sending a signal that long-standing commitments can shift rapidly based on political leadership. And for Russia, the cost is relatively low compared to the potential diplomatic gains, particularly if the meeting helps to erode Western unity. In conclusion, the coming weeks will be critical. Ukraine's urgent diplomacy, Europe's hesitant stance, and Trump's high-profile meeting with Putin could reshape the conflict's trajectory. Whether this moment will be remembered as a bold step toward peace or as the beginning of a dangerous, geopolitical shift will depend on the outcomes of those talks and the decisions that follow. The world will be watching closely, knowing that the stakes could not be higher.